is on such a like razor's edge of efficiency that I feel like the risk if you draw multiples of these is kind of high. Because you can't. If you have two of these, like, it's not good.
Let me present another scenario.
You don't get to do the thing.
There is a world it could be at 3, but people still only choose to play 1. Like, that could...
Exactly.
So they could, like, self-limit it themselves, right? So that's an angle to consider. That's an angle to consider.
I guess here's an important question, because I picture this in Magic.
Sure, okay.
And if the people running, like, the Magic ban list were running the Yu-Gi-Oh! Limited list, they might say... well, there's no reason to unlimit it. So what I need to know is, I need to try to frame a question around, like, do they try to keep the limited list short? Is that like a goal? Because I could see them just being like, just keep it limited, because why bother?
At one point, I think they were trying to like narrow down the semi-limited list because there's like so few things actually on it. And then for whatever reason on the last ban list or two, they decided to just start semi-limiting everything, which is really annoying. So for context, the limited list, I'm going to count, and you can keep yapping, because there's a lot of cards on it. I'll let you know how many cards are on the limited list. I'll give you that information.
Okay. So this is the thing that is going to bug me about this, is these cards got limited in the past. Like, you need a reason to unlimit it in a way. Like, now it has to prove that people would want to play it. And I don't know that there are people out there that this is the reward that gets people excited, because I still think maybe you would only want to play one. So why would you, if you were only going to play one anyway, what's the point in unlimiting it? They would just not touch it, is my concern.
Okay, their approach
is just don't mess with it.
I may have miscounted, but there are roughly 80 plus cards on the limited list. I think I counted. I think I counted 82, if I'm correct. So plus or minus 1 or 2 in case I'm miscounted, but I think I counted 82 limited cards. So out of a 10,000 plus card pool, there are 82 cards limited currently.
When did this card come out?
This is an oldie. This is 2006. Sounds about right. 2006. A lot of these cards I'm going to show you are pretty old. There's like 1 or 2 that are like newer-ish, but I think the most part we're doing some old stuff today.
All right. I'll look forward to putting my foot in my mouth, but I don't think this needs to be limited anymore. So now my concern is that they didn't bother unlimiting it. They just didn't bother with it and kept it there anyway.
I will say there are cards that you look at this on the limited list and you are like, why is this card still limited? So you are correct in that assumption that is a line of logic you could go down. Yep.
So, gosh, here's the thing. This is going to take a lot of the fun out of it for you, because unless I'm just completely wrong. Okay. I'm going to say it's still limited, but not like because it has to be, because they just kept it limited, and that you're starting me up with the absurdity factor. You're going with an absurd pick to mess with my brain on turn 1.
Would I ever do such a thing? Would I ever do such a thing? You're not falling for it.
Yeah, this is still limited.
You should have fell for it, because this card is fine. It's at 3. No issue.
I mean, is this a thing where they only play 1?
No, this card doesn't see any play. This card, like by modern standards, this card's awful. Yeah. This card's so bad.
Okay. Gotcha.
In old Yu-Gi-Oh, when it was slower and we actually had more than like 2 to 3 turns on average, Treeborn Frog was crazy because it was a +1 every single turn, because every turn you didn't have spell and traps in your back row. You could bring it back. You could tribute summon it. You could do a whole host of things with it. And it was a very good card. And it actually did get limited. It actually got errated. It didn't used to have that text that said if you don't control Treeborn Frog. It also wasn't a once per turn. So like there were things you could do where in the standby phase, you could resurrect Treeborn Frog, use a quick play spell or like an instant to like tribute it to do a thing, and then Treeborn Frog could still come back because now it's like in the graveyard again. So that was really cool. It was actually, there's a lot of really neat tricks you can do with Treeborn Frog. So it did get limited, but now it's at 3 and doesn't see any play because it's way too slow. So you took the bait. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Next card.
Limited card, obviously. All right. Symbol of Heritage. That's a very nice ornament thing for a wall.
It looks cool.
You got there.
It looks like a mana rock in Magic, to be honest.
Yeah, it does. It taps for yellow and
it taps for yellow
and yeah, it's like classic. All right. Activate only while there are 3 monster cards in the with the same name in your graveyard. Select one of those monsters, special summon it, and equip with this card. When this card is destroyed, destroy the equipped monster.
So it's like an enchantment. This is an equip spell. So
Yeah.
like if you have 3 or more monsters with this, or sorry, you can't have 3 or more. If you have 3 monsters with the same name in your graveyard, you can activate this. It like enchants the monster and it's like attached to it, if you will.
This got limited because I'm sure at some point they realized that they had printed a whole bunch of things that search for themselves over and over.
Okay. Interesting that you say that.
I
This,
would
funny
think
enough,
if
was actually
those-
printed in the same set as the Treeborn Frog, now that I think about it. So it's another
Yeah.
oldie, 2006.
I would think that when this card got limited, the game also, like with Treeborn Frog, probably went a certain number of turns. Because once these cards got really good, they started getting limited to like once per turn they can do the thing they do.
Okay.
So the cards that probably searched themselves up just probably did. Now would it like do it maybe across multiple turns to get 3 of the same thing in a graveyard?
Okay.
I don't know if I'm over speculating, but I feel like modern design would push something like that, you know?
Okay.
That one card doesn't just fetch itself 3 times in the same turn.
I will
That's
say
where they
you're
would
not
find
wrong
the
in
use
your
for these
assumptions.
once per turn effects.
That's all I'll say.
So now if it takes multiple turns to get all of those monsters, 3 of them, into the graveyard,
Hello.
then this isn't nearly as dangerous. I might be going too far down the weeds. I'm just going off like a bunch of the monsters I've seen that I know are in the current format. And the once per turn thing has obviously become... They should just have a short version of that. Like, they should just call it Uno, right? You just Uno. You only get to use this once per turn. I think this feels like a card that could be unrestricted because it should take longer now to get 3 things of the same name. And if you can get 3 things of the same name in your graveyard that fast, there's probably other issues just by nature of what those cards are providing and doing to make that happen. Because if there's a card that like you tribute it and then it goes and gets itself plus 1 more thing and you tribute that and it goes and gets itself plus 1 more thing and you tribute that and you're up 3 things, like that should be the issue if somebody's doing all that in 1 turn every time. So I don't think this is the problem. Man, I might be way too down a rabbit hole of how I think Yu-Gi-Oh works. Remember, all I've done is play starter decks.
Hey, you know Tier Element, though.
I do. I also know that like those cards are all, as you put it, gigaband. And if those things aren't fine, this should be fine. It feels like that's getting 3 monster cards with the same name should be hard. And every time that there's
Should be
something that does it too easy, I think those things get dealt with before this. Because that seems like individual cards that don't have once per turn written on them or that chain off in such a way should be the problem.
You want some help?
And again, this is Yu-Gi-Oh. Do I? Yes.
Here, read this card.
Lone Fire Blossom. Once per turn, you can tribute 1 face-up plant monster. Special summon 1 plant monster from your deck. And is this a hard once per turn?
It is not.
So this just does it? Why are you showing me a banned card?
I didn't say this card's banned.
I know.
You can assume it's banned.
My theory is that all these would be banned.
Okay.
My theory is getting debunked before my very eyes. Why, God, why do this? Why is this okay?
Welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh, my friend.
Well, now I don't know. Jeez. And then, so let's see. Then you would just get back 1 of these. So you could do that thing. And it also says special summon the plant monster. So say the last plant monster is the quote unquote good one. Like, you're still just getting back 1 of these to summon another plant monster. If you do that like 3 times, hold on. 1, 2, 3. Then your last plant monster is a banger. Then Symbol of Heritage, get this back. Then you sack this, you go get your other banger plant monster. So now you have 2 of them. I guess? But the symbol doesn't do anything without the blossom, but you can build your deck in a way
Sure,
to
I
just
was just
go
showing you an
get the
example of a
blossom.
card that could basically self-fulfill the symbol of heritage requirement. That's all. And
Right.
it's not. This is not the only card like this for context.
Oh God. Well, they didn't have restricted all kinds of ways to reanimate stuff, but at least this one seems like it should have a deck building cost.
Should.
You know, given all the things that you've shown me of the various ways to get things out of the graveyard, at least this one should have a deck building cost.
Okay.
But geez, it's just so hard to tell because what is the actual outcome, and is the outcome the problematic part? I'm just gonna go with unrestricted. Let's go with it. Let's play more symbol of heritage decks, guys. I could see an appetite for this from the players. The people who like this probably really like this.
So this card was so abusable because there are other cards that can loop it. If you pay attention to the last part of text, it says when this card is destroyed, destroy the equipped monster. However, if you have cards that can bounce symbol of heritage back to your hand, theoretically, there are infinite loops that this card can create because you could just keep reviving like monsters over and over again and bouncing symbol of heritage back and just do a lot of crazy shenanigans, which is why they had to ultimately limit symbol of heritage because it was during a time where there was not a lot of revival spells. Most of them at this point were banned, or I think maybe one of them was limited. And so Symbol of Heritage was like sort of a way to try to limit the power of like the revival cards back in older Yu-Gi-Oh! But you are correct. This card is at 3 now. It sees no play because it is not very good.
Okie dokie. Cool.
Got it.
Love
Got
that.
it. Good job.
Love that. I so got it. I was so confident.
All right, I bet
felt
you were.
so good
Let's see if you're so.
about
Let's
it.
see if that confidence continues into this card.
Magical Explosion is a trap card. Great. So it's a trap card, and you see trap cards aren't good anymore because they're slow, because you told me that.
So it should be in 3.
No, this is no longer a limited card.
Okay. You're not even gonna read it. You assume.
I'll read it.
Okay.
Fine. Activate only while you have no cards in your hand. Inflict 200 damage to your opponent for each spell card in your graveyard. What's wrong with this? So you dump your hand. You cast card destruction like 3 times, and you dump your hand and you flip this and you kill him. That's just good, honest combo burn magic right there.
Okay. I thought you'd like this card.
Yeah. I bet back in the day this was very like, oh, I got cheesed out by Magical Explosion. What a stupid no-skill deck.
That's what they
Learn how
sounded
to
like.
Special summon, nerds. Yeah, that's probably what they sounded like. And now, like, Jesus. Today, I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of ways to fill a graveyard, but if your deck is just loaded with spells and the opponent doesn't interact with your trap card activation, I'm guessing hand traps were a bit of a game changer for this, as well as the general speed of the format. That there's just a lot. I bet that interacting with this, based on what I've read and the monsters you've shown me, it seems like there's a lot of ways to interact with this now. I bet it wasn't true back in the day. So, I mean, it depends on whether or not they want to keep holding the spell deck down, and it doesn't seem like that's even necessary given the current format. So I'm going to go with initial gut read. All trap cards are now unlimited in the format. Let's say that this is not a limited card anymore.
You are incorrect. This card is still
Really?
limited. Yeah.
Wait,
it's crazy.
what?
So, let me give you the context for this. So, Magical Explosion, it's not really an FTK because your opponent has to have a turn technically because you have to flip the Magical Explosion on their turn, but it's basically a first turn kill. So, this card is very old, and basically the concept was you played a deck of like 30 plus spell cards, maybe a couple of monsters that would like buy you an extra turn if you didn't get there. And basically the whole concept was you literally just draw through your whole deck and like just activate every spell card you conceivably can. Then you set 2 copies of Magical Explosion because 1 is never enough to actually kill someone because 200, you'd have to have 40 spell cards engraved for 8,000. So you need 2 copies minimum in order to kill them because each of those with 20 spells, not with 20, is it 20 spells? 20 spells times 200 would be 4,000, right? So with 20 spells, each one does 4,000. So if you have 20 spells and 2 Magical Explosion, that just kills them straight up. So that was the whole premise. So you dig through your whole deck, you would set 2 copies of Magical Explosion. As soon as your opponent draws a card, you flip both copies of Magical Explosion and you kill them, and they don't really have any recourse. Interestingly enough, you talk about how, like, with hand traps and such, like, you think there'd be a lot of ways to interact with this. I would actually say there's not. There isn't, like... There's, like, 1 or 2 cards I can think of that are quick effect hand traps that you can use to negate a trap activating, like, in the draw phase. But those cards are, like, very bad and have, like, basically never seen play. And so, like, you could argue maybe you would, like, there's, like, also, like, a couple other cards where it's, like, you can discard it and, like, you take no effect damage for the turn. But those cards are also quite bad. So, like, you could argue that, like... I don't think anyone would ever play a Magical Explosion FTK deck for context. There's other ways the hand traps can interact with spell cards to, like, stop the opponent from drawing stuff and, like, getting, like, digging through their whole deck. I think Konami's just kept this card limited because it's just, like, a not very fun deck. Like, one person just playing Solitaire sets 2 Magical Explosion and just kills you. Like, that's not exactly fun or interactive. So I think they just kept it at 1 because it's at 1 you can't really do the FTK, and they just don't really want to, like, have this type of, like, effect in the game anymore.
The propaganda against spell decks continues. The crying nerds have won again, and I hate it. I hate it. Just get OTK'd and take your monsters and leave. Oh my god. Anyway, here's your next one. Fine. Oh, look at this dude. Dark Greffer?
Yeah, people like this guy.
Jeez, I wonder why. Dude works out, okay? Has
buff.
big sword.
He's buff.
Yeah, very, very metal.
Greffer is one of our, like, recurring characters. There's, like, many different versions of Greffer.
Yu-Gi-Oh's Gym Bro.
Yeah.
Got it.
Honestly, yeah.
It should be named Dark Chad Greffer. Attack 1700, defense 1600. 4-star Dark Warrior. You can special summon this card from your hand by discarding 1 level 5 or higher dark monster. Once per turn, you can discard 1 dark monster, send 1 dark monster from your deck to the graveyard. Oh, goody. Oh, goody. Tutors. We love those.
He's not really a tutor. He kind of just, like, dumps stuff to the graveyard. Well, I mean, in our game, it's like, you know, the graveyard's a second hand, so sure.
Yeah.
It's like a roundabout tutor. It's like a roundabout tutor.
Once per turn, so either turn.
Not a quick effect. Not a quick effect, so you can only do it during your turn.
Oh, okay. Only on your turn. All right. But that's still, you're going to get what you want in the yard and then bring it back. It's a nice little enabler guy. Mm-hmm. Discarding a level 5 or higher. I guess if you want to special summon this very much. Basically, this is have what you want in the graveyard. So if you have a graveyard deck, this dude is here to fill it.
Assuming you have the fodder to dump, yes.
Yeah, I can see why it would be restricted in the day. Like, like
in the day.
The dude
in the day. Not now.
Fuels himself. Fuels himself, you know? You discard more Dark Greffers for Dark Greffer effects.
Theoretically, yes, you could. Yeah, if it's not limited, yeah, you could do that.
Yep. So, had to chill on that one. There was no downside to having multiples. I am tempted to look at this dude and be like, this could be more of a problem now.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, more dark monsters have been printed.
Yeah, true.
More combo cards with them in the graveyard have been printed.
True.
A lot of cards have been printed. Mm-hmm. And when something like is kind of limited by the type of monster it interacts with, like say Dark Monster, which I know is not a serious limitation because it's the most popular type in the game. You've told me that.
Sure.
But like anytime it has this somewhat limiting effect that only gets worse in an Eternal format as more things get printed, like I could see this one sticking around. I could see this one like actually being more dangerous as time went on. Now, you said this person is popular. It is a compelling card. There is an audience of people who probably want to play decks featuring this.
I wouldn't say he's, like, popular. I said he's a recurring character, like, in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Lore. So there's, like, there's other versions of Greffer. There's, like, card art that, like, features Greffer that's, like, not, like, that doesn't, like, isn't, like, a monster necessarily. So, like, he's just, like, he's one of our guys that you always see on card art every now and then.
I should try not to read into that too much, because a part of me is like, if I controlled a game like Yu-Gi-Oh! That has an anime lore story around it, I would try to get the popular cards characters, the things that people want to play the most.
Sure. It's not like
off the
Blue Eyes
list
White
where I
Dragon,
could.
though. It does not nearly have that level of notoriety.
I'm gonna go with my gut.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that this is a card that gets worse the more best things and combos are printed.
Worse as in, like,
Therefore-
dangerous?
Yeah, more dangerous.
Okay.
So I'm saying leave it restricted is probably
Okay.
a good, safe move.
Your instinct is correct, actually. Dark Grepher is, in fact, still limited for all the reasons you said, just as the Eternal card pool has expanded. Even in the retro Edison format, which is very popular, Dark Grepher sees play. He's a very old card. But he sees lots of play in that format. And even by modern standards, he's very good in certain decks. I don't think, like, at the moment he's played in anything, but anytime there's a dark, good stuff deck, let's call it, Grepher usually rears its ugly head. And so as a result, he has remained on the limited list. He's kind of gone all over the place. He's gone to, like, limited, then, like, to 3. I think he got semi-limited at one point. And relatively recently, like within the past several years, he went back to a singular copy because there's a very strong dark deck that would play Grepher, and Grepher was very good in that deck, so they decided to limit it. And I think he's been limited ever since, if I recall. But a very good Yu-Gi-Oh card. It's weird because it's like you kind of read it and it's like it seems very minus in terms of like card economy, but then when you remember Yu-Gi-Oh, everything like in the graveyard's like a second hand. He's very good. So you were right on the nose. I'm very impressed actually. I thought this was going to trip you up. So good job.
Yay! Senpai noticed me.
All right, here's your next one.
Gold Sarcophagus. Have I seen this card? I have, I think.
I may have referenced it. I don't know if I've shown it to you like for like review though.
I think I have. The art is really familiar. Okay.
Well,
Gold
Yu-Gi-Oh uses that
Sarcophagus.
Millennium Eye thing very frequently, so it could have been on another card too.
Gold Sarcophagus is a spell card. It's looking at me, giving me Raiders of the Lost Ark vibes. Banish one card from your deck face up. During your second standby phase after this card's activation, add that to your hand. During your second standby phase after this activation.
Correct. So you would activate Gold Sarcophagus, banish a card. Your next turn would roll around. That's the first turn. Then the turn after that, you would get this card to your hand.
So there's a card in Magic called Profane Tutor.
Okay. Similar.
This is very Profane Tutor.
What is Profane Tutor for the non-magic, or for the non-magic?
Sure. Profane Tutor, I believe, is you suspend it for 2, which I think is only 1 mana. It's a suspend card, so you can't cast it.
Okay.
Right? You can only suspend it, and you suspend it for 2, and then 2 turns later, you cast it for free.
Oh, okay. So it's like, it's literally the same card, just like worded differently, and like templated differently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
So
like
I'm
instead of
trying
like
to think.
it's like you're not, instead of you exiling a card, you're exiling the Profane Tutor, and then you get the card. Interesting. Okay. So same, functionally it's the same, but in terms of mechanics, it works differently. Interesting. Okay. Cool.
I'm trying to think of how many waves Profane Tutor made and if it still does. And I believe that in the format it was printed for, Profane Tutor, like people find ways to cheat it to get the card right away. So a card with no casting cost, like a suspend card, if you cascade or discover into it, which are mechanics that cast like the next card in your deck for free, if you do that, you get the card right away.
Oh,
and I think those are the
okay.
only kind of decks that somehow cheated the effect, right? That did it.
Okay.
So how would this cheat the effect? You banish the card from your deck face up.
I mean, like in Yu-Gi-Oh,
I don't think there is.
you would just need a card that says like add a banished card, from your banished pile to your hand, essentially. Which like Yu-Gi-Oh has some of those types of. I wouldn't say they're like very common, and they might be like restrictive to a particular archetype. But we do have cards that can say like get a card from exile, essentially.
But that's so much more limited.
Sure.
The
sure.
thing that makes it good in Magic is that the Cascade cards have their own effect.
Right.
Often when you do the thing and you get the tutor on the spot, it was then going on to win the game. Like this was popular in CDH more than it even was in the format that the tutor was printed for, which was modern.
Okay.
So like this one seems a much safer version of that card when I think about it.
Okay. It's cool that you have like a direct analog to this card. Like it's not often we have like almost a one-to-one version of things.
And I can evaluate it based on that. And basically, the big problem is when it's not in your opening hand. When you draw it on turn like 3 or 4 and the game is already reaching end game mode in those formats, and you're like, oh, 2 turns from now, that's useful. What a nice top deck. So again, I look at this and I'm like, in current Yu-Gi-Oh, every single new set that's printed in Eternal format, like 2-turn window feels further away.
Sure.
It's a bigger cost. It's a bigger and bigger cost.
This card was printed. This actually was printed as a prize card initially. It got reprinted after that, but yeah. So at first, the only way to get this card was actually winning in tournaments to like get this card, and then they eventually reprinted it. This is like 2006, 7, 8, maybe. It's around there. I think it's like 2008-ish. Now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, so they first initially printed it as a prize card, and then it got its like official reprint, so then like everyone could play with it.
I do feel like the edges, again, current Yu-Gi-Oh is played on such a fine efficiency edge that like the price of, even if you have this on turn 1, what if on turn 2 you draw another one? And you're just not affecting the board the way you need to, you're just gonna die. That's the way it feels like. Looking at the format, that's how it feels. I'm gonna say this one is no longer restricted.
Final answer?
Limited. Yes.
Gold Sark has surprisingly only got better with time. So initially, people, it was limited back in the day. Because it was very good, and Yu-Gi-Oh had was longer than 2 to 3 turns for its typical games. So being able to basically tutor for any card in your deck was like very rare, right? Even if you took 2 cards to get there. So again, once again, like in the Edison format, Gold Sarcophagus does see play. I believe it's semi-limited. It might be at 3, but it's not limited to 1 because I think you can play 2. All right, the decks I'm thinking of play 2 of it, but anyway. Very good card back in the day just because it tutored for any card that you wanted. If you needed a board wipe, you tutor a board wipe. If you needed your like a card for like your combo, you tutor for that. And like Yu-Gi-Oh was slow enough that you could like wait the 2 turns, get the card, and then like do your big push, right? What's interesting though is that this card got better over time because Yu-Gi-Oh started printing cards that triggered effects when they got exiled or banished. So for instance, a card would say, if this card is banished, do X. So Gold Sarcophagus immediately has like an impact. Like it doesn't matter that you get the card in 2 turns because the effect still triggers from the banish zone. So it might be like, for instance, like if this card is banished, special summon this card. If this card is banished, tutor for a different card. If this card is banished, special summon something from your deck, right? And so as a result, this card is actually still limited, as a matter of fact. It kind of like went up and down. Like sometimes it was at 3, but for the most part, it's still limited. And one of the best decks at the current moment is a deck that you can activate this and banish a monster, and it has an immediate effect when it's banished. So you get like added value because not only do you get like the effect, but then if that card like stays banished, then in 2 turns, if the game goes that long, you can add the card to your hand anyway. So it's like extra value, just like for absolutely free. Plus, there's no once return on this card. So if you had 3 of it and like you open 2 of them, you can like do both of the effects like of like whatever gets banished. So it turned from delayed value into immediate value, which is why the card had to get limited and is still limited to this very day.
That is a blind spot. I'm mildly salty. I don't think we have anything like that in Magic.
You have nothing that triggers like on exile.
Yeah, if you exile it, you get thing now or benefit now. I don't think we have anything like that. We have a lot of things that like when you discard it do that, but not when it's exiled. So I'm mildly salty on this one. This was a left field one.
It was, and I thought that's why it'd be fun to show you because I feel like it'd throw you off quite a bit. So the exiled zone is like our 3rd hand, if you will, for some decks. Not all decks like use the banished pile, but some decks like it's instead of using the graveyard, they use the banished pile as their like 2nd hand. So, all right, next card.
Get in the notebook.
You're getting the notebook. Gotta write that one down.
Been a minute. It's been a minute since we had a new entry in the notebook.
I thought you would have just shredded the notebook at this point, to be honest with you.
I thought with all it's got a lot of damage from being thrown at the wall. But I thought with all the summoning stuff done, I wouldn't have to write down banish is 3rd hand. Okay. What do we have? The command zone next? Okay, whatever. There. Note taken.
Good.
What else?
I'll let you know for this next card, you can ignore the first sentence.
Thanks.
I'm helping you out. I'm helping you out.
Yeah, it's such a guy. Marco Cosmos is... What?
Marco.
Macro Cosmos, not Marco Cosmos.
So, dude, this is Marco. These are his Cosmos. He's a trap in and of himself. All right. Macro Cosmos is a trap card. When this card is activated, you can special summon one Helios the Oh, I don't care.
You can ignore
While
that.
this card is face up on the field, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. Oh, you guys like your floodgates so much.
This is a continuous trap card.
This is an awesome card. This card should have never been restricted. Shut these degenerate graveyard scum down. Lock them out. Make them play an honest dragon attack each other game. That's what I say. This card is totally fine.
That's your answer?
This card is the good guy. 100%. Let's see. But, of course, the softies at Yu-Gi-Oh! Couldn't handle their graveyard being
you're gonna be
taken away.
insulting a lot are people.
They can take it. I mean, are any of us card gamers out there? Are any of us still like disillusioned that we're the good guys?
That's fair.
We're crazy. All right. So this card got restricted. I do get why. It is obviously an important part of so many decks to so many players. Did it have to stay limited?
A great question.
Did it have to stay limited? This is another one where this one has two factors that make this tricky.
Okay.
First is while the format gets bigger, the graveyard gets increasingly busted, which means there's more graveyard decks that this could be helping against if this were the good guy. But we already know it's not the good guy or it wouldn't have been limited. So this gets more busted as the format gets bigger, which means that they're more likely to keep it limited. Similar to the, really buff veiny dude we saw. And on the other hand, it's a trap card, which means it got slower. And we've talked about, nobody plays traps anymore because it's slow.
Unless it's like a deck that is like supposed to be a trap deck, which is like the exception to the rule. Yeah.
This doesn't seem too slow to me.
Okay.
This seems like it would still get played. Yeah, I mean, you go first, you set this, you flip it on opponent's turn, and you just kind of told me with the other trap card there aren't that many ways to just stop it. I mean, there are ways to destroy
I will
it,
give
but...
you an asterisk here. Macrocosmos is more interactable because it's a continuous trap, so any sort of spell and trap removal can destroy it, whereas with Magical Explosion, it's a normal trap. You'd have to find a way to negate it immediately, because otherwise it resolves and just goes to the graveyard. So Macrocosmos sticking out on the field is susceptible to removal. So I could go flip Macrocosmos at the start of your turn. If you have a way to destroy it, like not negate, but destroy, it's way more susceptible to destruction, whereas you can't destroy Magical Explosion. The effect still resolves, if that makes sense.
This is also a magic card. This is Rest in Peace.
Okay.
I guess the only difference is Rest in Peace, you play it, it immediately exiles all graveyards.
Oh,
This says, well,
interesting.
this card
So
is face up,
just...
any card sent is banished.
Oh, wow, so it does both. That's crazy.
Yeah, Rest in Peace exiles all graveyards, and anything that goes to eat a graveyard is exiled.
But it's
and
not
exile
an
is
instant,
not
right?
a second hand in Magic. It's an enchantment.
It's an enchantment.
Like
So it's similar,
trap.
but like you
Yeah.
can't use it because like one advantage of Macrocosmos is like if my opponent does something that's going to like send something to the graveyard, right? Let's take like Dark Refer, So if they activate Dark Refer, they still get to discard the card. Well, actually, no. They would summon the Greffer first, and then you can flip Macrocosmos like in response. And so now, if they were like going to Dark Refer, now like they can't, right? So like you can sort of like gotcha them with this card. Where like Rest in Peace, because you're describing, you play it like at sorcery speed. So it's like it's a little bit different in that regard, I would say. But for the most part,
I'm gonna magic verbiage at you and the audience just a little, but those who know. I've done it in a few of my videos. Like a deck I play a lot in Standard lately. I play a card called Temporary Lockdown that exiles all things on the battlefield that are 2 mana or less. So I'll play the Rest in Peace, exile the graveyard. I'll play Temporary Lockdown to put the Rest in Peace under the Temporary Lockdown. And then when the opponent goes for their graveyard combo, I'll use a card to remove my own Temporary Lockdown to unlock the Rest in Peace at
That's
instant
so
speed.
funny.
Yeah. So I build my own trap
You can
cards.
build your own Macrocosmos in Magic. Okay.
Yes, and God, is it needed. It's needed, man. Oh my goodness. Like Graveyard Hate in current standard is almost, it is main deckable in best of one, which is crazy. It's crazy we live in this world.
It's so interesting. I think there's only one card in Yu-Gi-Oh! That I can think of that, like, when you play it, banishes all cards, like, currently in the graveyard.
Wow.
There's a very old card called Soul Release, which does 5, and you can do your graveyard as well. So, like, there's some combos there. But I think the only one I can think of is Ruddy Rose Dragon. Yeah, Ruddy Rose on Synchro Summon, banish all cards from the graveyards. Yeah, that's like the only card I can think of that like just immediately does it.
That just instant nerfs the graveyard.
Yeah, like there are cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! That can like banish a singular card, but like, and there's like, those are pretty, like, I wouldn't say they're like all over the place, but they're pretty like uncommon, if you will. Like there's no shortage of that type of effect. But going after like the whole graveyard, like there's stuff like Macrocosmos that can like deter the graveyard, but like going after the whole graveyard is actually kind of rare. I'll be honest with you.
I mean, yeah, you guys would hate it. You guys couldn't handle it. You'd be angry. You'd be shredding cards in the street. You'd be losing it on the internet. It would be over. Yeah, we can't have that. So can we have Macrocosmos in 2025? To bring it full circle. I don't think you like this is the card where it's like, okay, why would they unrestrict it? They restricted it for a reason. Things only got worse. I'm gonna go with logic number 1, which is this thing only gets better over time, therefore you can't unrestrict it. Also, I'm gonna go a little meta, and you're gonna tell me why I'm wrong, which I'm gonna learn something. It's gonna be great. But they did restrict the Abyss Dweller, right? Or they banned it.
They banned Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller's banned. Yeah.
Yeah. So right? So why would they, like, if this are unrestricted, would they be banning Abyss Dweller?
Okay.
I don't think so. So we're gonna say this is still a limited card.
So something you may have missed with Abyss Dweller, though, is that it is a card you play from the extra deck, which means you theoretically have access to it at all times, because it's like your 15-card command zone, if you will. Where Macrocosmos, you have to like hard draw it or have a way to tutor it, which there's very few ways to tutor like trap cards specifically, unless it's like a deck that's like trying to do that. Macrocosmos has been like the good guy and the bad guy, because obviously Yu-Gi-Oh! Has the graveyards as a second hand, so it's really good that Macrocosmos has the ability to like shut down the graveyard-based decks. Back in the day, there was actually macro decks, because there were cards, for instance, that said, if this card gets banished, you can just re-special summon it back out to the field during like the end of your turn. So they called these macro decks because they always got this recurring advantage if Macrocosmos was active, and then you could like do stuff like tribute that for a monster, or like do other stuff with it. And so like it not only like stifled the opponent's ability to play, but it like net benefited you because you were taking advantage of the banished pile. These are kind of the cards I was referring to earlier, like with Gold Sarcophagus, but those cards are like much worse comparatively, like by older Yu-Gi-Oh! Standards. Anyway, Macrocosmos is actually at 3 copies right now. It only recently got to 3 copies within like the past couple years. I want to say like 2022, maybe 2023. But in any case, it was limited for quite some time just because it is like a very unfun card where it's like, oh, my opponent flips Macrocosmos. I can't play the game because my deck is like unplayable without the graveyard. So it was limited for a while, but it's back at 3 now. It's kind of like what you saw with trap cards. It's just kind of slow. If you're going first, like, and you set it up, cool. There are ways to answer it, but if you go second, the card does nothing because your opponent probably already set up their graveyard and probably already has like some stuff in play. So going second, the card is really bad. And so people would typically kind of relegate this card to the side deck so that games 2 and 3, if they knew they were going first, they would bring in Macrocosmos as a way to kind of like hose their opponent. But card hasn't really seen much play coming back to 3. So it's kind of the good guy, if you will.
I think so. I'm kind of surprised they limited it in the first place, but there you go.
I think a lot of people are, but it is kind of annoying. because it's like, you know, again, floodgates in our game are just like really debilitating compared to your game. So I think it's like they kind of banned it on principle for that.
Heaven forbid anybody ever tell you can't do something for free. Oh my gosh. Spirit Reaper. Let's see. It's a dark monster. It's a level 3. It's got 300 attack and 200 defense. It's a zombie. It cannot be destroyed by battle. Oh, that's cool. After resolving a card effect that targets this face-up card, destroy this card. Okay, so any effect that targets it by either player destroys it.
For the most part. There are some exceptions. I'll get to that later if you want to know.
When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by a direct attack, discard one random card from their hand.
Hand destruction.
Discard?
Hand destruction.
No. Oh no.
This is a test, CGB. This is a test.
Oh no. And everything has haste.
Everything has haste. So on an open board, you can just summon Spirit Reaper, attack your opponent for 3, and just rip a card out of their hand. Yep.
It has to be an open board, though.
Well, yeah, true. So for context on the resolving the targeting effect, there are some cards, for instance, that might say, like, target a monster on the field, flip it face down, right? In that instance, Spirit Reaper doesn't destroy itself because it's not face up anymore for the effect to like resolve for it to destroy itself. So that doesn't work. But for the most part, everything that targets, which there's a lot of stuff that targets, will kill Spirit Reaper like straight up.
Yep, dies to everything.
Dies to basically everything except battle, notably.
Has to get through a wide open field. Only attacks for 300. So if I understand, anything with 350 like defense if it's in defense position, or you know,
walls it off.
Like almost anything can just bounce this. Like you have to really clear the way. I feel like everything we see that isn't designed just to be thrown into the trash is bigger than this. This looks like a baby in current
It also
standards.
does have to attack directly. So even if it attacks something with like 0 attack, it still has to deal a direct attack. That doesn't work.
Yeah, so
But it's hand destruction, CGB.
It is, but I don't think so, man. This doesn't look like a scary card in current Yu-Gi-Oh, is it? This doesn't look like it. I can't imagine too much of this going on. I also like just play your hand. Like this.
That's true. That's very true.
This is so bad. Like if you just played out your hand because of Spirit Reaper, like this looks like you're down a card on board because this doesn't do that much. Do I?
It seems like you did, but now it sounds like you're second guessing yourself.
I mean, it's scary if you're able to like get 2 of these and then clear the board and hit the opponent and they lose 2 cards. That probably feels like you won the game. But but at this, like, why don't you just play something big and take their life total like down by a million? Obviously, losing cards is really bad.
Sure. So remember in our game though, card draw and like regaining cards comes at like a premium. Right? So effectively, even though it's only doing 300 damage, if your opponent's down to like no cards, it's like you've won the game essentially. And at that point, it's just inevitable that you just need to put their life total to 0. Because if they have no cards, they can't play. You have to keep that in mind. We don't have stuff that just says draw 2, draw 3, draw 4 all the time. Like it's like card economy is very important.
Reminds me of Hypnotic Spectre.
Okay.
A lot. But Hypnotic Spectre had evasion. And it didn't die to any spell. And any hand trap hits this.
Well, it's funny because you have to think this card was limited at some point. The question
it was limited because it's so sensitive about their hand. Not my hand. No. Oh no, my hand. Nah, it doesn't feel like a current limited card. I imagine that with the power level of current Yu-Gi-Oh, I bet there are things that you could do to like clear a board, get out 2 or 3 Spirit Reavers, hit. You discard 2 cards at random, and now for the next like 5 turns, you're just waiting to die because you're up 2 or 3 cards and there's no way back in. But I also think that if like there's 100 things you would have lost to if you couldn't stop Spirit Reavers from hitting you. Spirit Reapers. If you couldn't stop these little babies from hitting you, you would have lost to so many other things. I think. I'm just thinking about the monsters you've shown me that exist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Too. So I'm gonna go with this is fine.
I don't answer.
Yeah.
So in old
like
Yu-Gi-Oh,
never learning.
So in old Yu-Gi-Oh, Spirit Reaper is a menace. If you ever actually like play more old Yu-Gi-Oh, you'll learn how actually crazy this card is. There are instances where, like, even if Spirit Reaper hits you once, you feel like you're, like, out of the game. Like, just straight up. Like, it just losing a singular card
I
is
shouldn't have
that
done
bad
that.
off of this card. So a lot of, like, old retro decks would play it. That's when it was, like, limited because it was, like, at multiple copies, it was, like, even better. Very tutorable as well. But you're correct. By modern standards, this card is very bad. I just wanted to see if I could get you with the hand destruction part, because I know how that part triggers you so much. Anyway, here's your next one.
Into the void. Cards on cards.
I love the anytime there's cards on cards. I love it. It's so meta. It's great. Does Magic do that?
Totally.
Is there any like Magic cards and then Magic cards in the art?
Not in a real Magic set. No, in maybe like some of the LOL products that they make, like unsets, but not like this. All right, if you have 3 or more cards in your hand, draw 1 card. And if you do, during the end phase of this turn, discard your entire hand. Oh my god. This is what you have to do to draw cards?
Yep, this is what we have to do.
I mean, it barely replaced itself.
It replaces itself.
All it did is replaced itself, and then you lose your whole hand at the end phase.
Well, like
And
you
have to have
said,
3
just
or
empty
more
your
cards
hand.
to do it.
Like you said, just empty your hand. Then you don't worry about it.
I know, but like, what did all it is a cantrip. It's just you're 1 card closer to whatever
That's it.
combo
That's all
you're
it
trying
is.
to build. I think this card, I can see the point. The point is you basically have less cards in your deck.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
And then when you limit it, it's like, oh, well, now if you draw it you only have 2 cards in your hand, it does nothing. Did that get better or worse over time?
What a great question.
It seems a lot. Like, my first thought is it's a lot worse if you have hand traps and you had to discard them all. Nice one. That doesn't seem good for you.
Okay.
That seems very bad. Yeah, the more interactive you have to be, the worse this is. Because this is just go for it, put out a board, and get there. Like, make your board unassailable or win that turn.
I'd agree. Yeah.
So, does a deck with 3 of these, is it significantly more threatening in, like, that combo sense? It does dig you 3 cards deeper. Say that you have 3 of these, right?
Sure,
And you actually
sure,
draw
sure,
them,
sure.
and you're able to cast them. It digs you 3 cards deeper to the setup you need, and then you kind of have to go for it that turn. Either you win on the spot, or whatever you do is unassailable. Your opponent is locked out because you're passing with no hand. You're open to whatever they can do. That seems like it got worse over time. Generally speaking, though, like, just free cycles for cards get better over time, and when power level goes up, typically speaking, the ability to OTK, the combos get better, the locks get better. This is a tough one because
I know it is. That's why I picked it.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because Yu-Gi-Oh has definitely evolved into this point where, like, every card is a force of will or something like you've said it a few times in our games together.
Yeah.
Like, you have 20 force of wills.
Basically,
in your deck.
yeah, that's what hand traps are.
This is not good in that situation, but you don't have to play it in a situation you needed to hold up and survive another turn. You play it in a situation where you go for it.
Sure.
And if your graveyard is a second hand, then discarding your hand back in the day maybe wasn't the cost, but now it's like being empty-handed and passing is probably a death sentence. So this is an end the game type effect.
You're torn on this one.
I am, because
That's why I
part of my
saved it for the
instinct
end.
is that
I figured this one would be
yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, part of my instinct on these card draw effects is they get better over time, but then, like, the description of the format just isn't very good for this. There's a card in Magic called Street Wraith. Street Wraith is a 5-mana 3/3 Swamp Walker. That's it. Except for this line of text that says, pay 2 life, discard Street Wraith, draw a card. And
Interesting.
you can activate that at instant speed at any time.
Okay. So you could theoretically just cycle it at 4 times if you have 4.
Yep. In theory, you could just give up your 2 life and get deeper into your deck whenever you need to and just play this 3/3 Swamp Walker. And in formats that got older, at first, like, people started running it more, especially in a deck where having your life go down was actually a good thing for you, is where Street Wraith saw a lot of play.
Okay. Interesting.
But then, like, the pressure on each card spot and the ability to be interactive just got, like, worse. And then Street Wraith kind of like balanced back out and then wasn't played as much
because
anymore.
like each individual card had to be like, you couldn't just play a cantrip. Like each card just had to be, so funny enough, Yu-Gi-Oh has actually had a very similar trajectory to that.
And so now I'm like, is this Street Wraith? Card draw is a lot rarer in your game.
That's true. That's a big difference.
Does have a limit to it. I feel like it has a deck. I feel like Into the Void has a deck where it just, where it's trying to just do it this turn. You know, the little swerve is going to be like, if you discard this card, something good happens for you. Like maybe you get these things in your hand and then discard them, and that's a good thing. You get an effect when they're discarded. There's also on-board monsters that like can interact with the opponent, although a lot of them say discard a card to do it, but not all of them. I feel like Into the Void has a deck. The question is, do we need to nerf that deck? Is that the deck that needs to be held down? Free is good, card draw is good. I'm gonna stick with it. This card's still limited. I'm gonna stick with that.
Final answer.
Yeah.
So Into the Void basically saw no play when it got printed. It took until 2020, 2021, 2022, somewhere, maybe even earlier, maybe like 2018, 2019. There was a deck that was basically just trying to draw the entire deck in order to OTK the opponent. And like that deck does it. So one thing you have to understand with like when it comes to hand traps, and I say like how every deck has like 20 Force of Wills. That's usually the case. However, sometimes Yu-Gi-Oh has combo decks that they forego any sort of like interacting on the opponent's turn, because if the combo deck gets to do its thing and is consistent enough, it's going to win the game. And so these decks don't play any of the hand traps because they're just focused on consistency and trying to just do the thing that they're trying to do. So Into the Void slots into that type of deck very well, because it's like you said, if you do the thing on the first turn, you don't care about discarding your hand. And it's very easy in modern Yu-Gi-Oh specifically to dump your hand and like do a bunch of stuff, and like you won't have a hand anyway at the end of doing like your long combo or whatever. So Into the Void's downside basically is negligible. So theoretically,